Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News channel. Let me get that graphic off there. Sorry, lots of buttons to push, so I was just a little distracted there. Great to have everyone here. An important broadcast tonight. We'll be just taking you briefly again back to New York City, where the worldwide protest for peace, humanity for peace, was taking place. They had a lot of guest speakers, a good event today, an important event. This day, August 6th, marks an important anniversary. It's a time to reflect on a sober chapter in history. It's the anniversary of a day that changed the world forever, the bombing of Hiroshima with the atomic bomb. On this day, on August 6th, 1945, the world witnessed the unimaginable horrors of war. 76 years ago, a bright flash of light tore through the skies, followed by a deafening roar that shook the very core of humanity. The city of Hiroshima, Japan, was devastated, and thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives were lost in an instant. And let us not forget that they also bombed Nagasaki days later. Today, we take a moment to honor the memory of those who perished and extend our thoughts to the survivors who bore the weight of unspeakable suffering. On this anniversary of Hiroshima's bombing, we are reminded in a stark way of the destructive power that humans can unleash upon each other. That tragedy stands as a timeless call for peace and understanding among nations, an urgent plea to break free from the cycle of violence and conflict. I have footage here of the event, the bombing of Hiroshima. This is graphic footage. You may not want to see this, but it is reality. I think it is important for people to know exactly what the reality of that moment was. This is what it was like when the first atomic bomb was dropped on a target. No audio with this, just the horrific images, the devastation afterward. And today, some people seem to think that a limited nuclear exchange might actually be possible, and some people seem to want it. But in New York, I think sanity was on display today in the face of insanity, where Humanity for Peace rally was taking place. Lori was broadcasting that earlier today. But let's just pick up a little bit of what was said there, just to kind of recap for those people, for those of you who maybe weren't able to tune in through the day today. Here's Scott Ritter.
I think all of you know who Scott Ritter is. To come to the stage. Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. That's about right. I feel like Eddie Vedder up here or something. Everybody can hear me okay? First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. It's a beautiful day. I want to thank the organizers. This is a wonderful cause. And hopefully we'll be able to take what happens here today and build a community that can bring about the change that we're all looking for. In Chris Nolan's movie, Oppenheimer, there's a very important scene. It's about the man who made the atomic bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer. He oversaw the team, the Manhattan Project, that built the bomb. And there's a scene in the movie after the bomb has been perfected and tested, the Trinity device, where Oppenheimer is watching two men in uniform packing up the gadget to send away. And he starts to opine on how it could be best used. He says, you know, if you ignite the bomb at a given, and they cut him off. They say, it's okay, Dr. Oppenheimer, we got it now. We got it. And thus we transferred the world's most deadly weapon away from the scientists who made it into the men who would use it. And they did use it. 78 years ago today, the United States of America dropped one of Oppenheimer's gadgets on the city of Hiroshima. We don't know how many people died. Ranges from 77,000 to 125,000. We don't know. 3 days later, over the city of Nagasaki, we dropped a second gadget. The total casualties go between 130,000 to 250,000 people dead because of these bombs, but we don't know because most of the evidence vaporized. They don't exist. They're gone. The world's most deadly weapons. The men who dropped these bombs, Paul Tibbets and Charles Sweeney, were men of honor. They're men who were serving their country. Paul Tibbets flew combat missions over Germany in an effort to defeat the Nazi threat. So I don't want to hear anybody say how evil he is. He was doing his duty as an executioner does their duty. He never once voiced any regret for his decision to drop the bomb. To his dying day, he said, what I did was right. You know, and I have some sympathy for Paul Sweeney because when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in a field artillery unit that was nuclear capable. And twice a year, we practiced the procedures we would follow if we were called upon to deliver a nuclear device against a hostile enemy force. And I will tell you right now, with absolute certainty, I and every single Marine would have obeyed those orders had they been issued, because we were the executioners. We weren't the ones who came up with the device. We were the ones who were going to use the device in defense of our nation. But then something happened. In the 1980s, rational thinking seemed to grip the United States. There was an amazing event that took place in June of 1982, right down the road here in New York City. 1 million Americans like yourself gathered there and demonstrated against nuclear war, demonstrated for arms control. At that time, the President of the United States was Ronald Reagan, hardcore conservative. He called the Soviet Union the evil empire. A year after this demonstration, ABC put out a TV series called The Day After. Ronald Reagan watched this series. And after seeing the depiction of what life after a general nuclear exchange between the United States and Soviet Union looked like, he turned to his advisors and he said, is this what it's going to be like? And they said, no, Mr. President, it's going to be far worse. It's going to be worse than you can possibly imagine. And that set off a light bulb in Ronnie Reagan's head. And in December of 1987, he signed the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty with his Soviet counterpart, Mikhail Gorbachev, and began the process of getting rid of J. Robert Oppenheimer's device. It was the first time that the United States and the Soviet Union didn't speak of limiting the growth of nuclear weapons, but actually eliminating these weapons from the face of the earth. And you know who participated in that? You know who led the charge? Who's on the front lines in making this treaty possible? People like me, executioners, formerly trained to use nuclear weapons. And we're now having our skill sets corralled into getting rid of nuclear weapons. And ladies and gentlemen, that was a good thing. Unfortunately, we were not able to maintain the momentum. We got knocked off track. Arms control today is not happening. The last remaining arms control treaty, New START, expires in 2026, and there is no negotiation taking place today to renew it. And this is happening at a time when both the United States and Russia are talking about spending billions of dollars, some would even say trillions of dollars, in modernizing their nuclear forces. But this time the modernization will take place without any limitations, without any restrictions imposed by arms control. It will literally be a nuclear arms race. Now, what makes this more dangerous in the 1980s? In the 1980s, we operated with a doctrine called mutually assured destruction. It meant you use your nukes, we use ours, we all die, therefore, let's not use the nukes. Now, that's a pretty stupid way to live life, but it's better than thinking that you can win a nuclear war. Today, the executioners of Americans' nuclear policy believe a nuclear war can be won. We have a doctrine that says that we can preemptively use nuclear weapons anytime we want to. It's not just me saying this, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take the words out of the mouth of a Trump-era arms control official speaking to the Arms Control Association when he said it is the goal of the Trump administration that every morning Chinese and Russian leaders wake up, they don't know if this is the day we're going to nuke them or not. That's an honest-to-God quote. That's insanity. And yet that's America's policy. Now you'll say, wait a minute, Scott, that's Trump. What about Biden? Biden has the exact same policy of nuclear preemption, a policy that's being implemented without any restraint from arms control. And now we bring in the issue of Ukraine. We have a war going on in Ukraine that's not a war between Russia and Ukraine. It's a war between Russia and the collective West, including the United States. The goals of the United States in this conflict are simple: the strategic defeat of Russia. Now, Russia has said that a world without Russia is a world no one will live in, which means if you try to strategically defeat Russia, they will use their nuclear weapons to protect themselves. Yet the goal and objective of the United States in providing more than $180 billion of U.S. taxpayer funding to Ukraine is to enable Ukraine to strategically defeat Russia. That means that our policy is to commit suicide. Ladies and gentlemen, that is literally the definition of insanity. That is crazy. Now, today in the United States, there's men and women who wear the uniforms of the armed services of the United States who are sworn to protect our nation. Some of these men and women have the job of using nuclear weapons if and when called upon. These are people like Paul Tibbets who will execute that mission. But you know, the people in the world today that have the ability to employ nuclear weapons don't just speak English. They speak Russian. They speak Chinese. They speak North Korean. They speak French. They speak Indian. They speak Urdu. Hindu, I guess. I should be accurate. Apologize out there. I'm a Marine. Sometimes I say things that I shouldn't. But the bottom line is we no longer have a nuclear monopoly. If nuclear weapons are used, this is a global problem. But we are the only nation in the world that has a doctrine of preemption. We are the only nation in the world actively pursuing a policy supporting Ukraine with the goal of the strategic defeat of Russia that will result in general thermonuclear war. We are the only nation willingly trying on a daily basis not just to have Russia wake up and China wake up questioning whether or not this is the day we will use nuclear weapons. Every person in the world wakes up wondering if this is the day. Now let's go back to the movie about Oppenheimer, that scene. J. Robert Oppenheimer turns to the men in uniform and tries to tell them about the nuclear device. They say, "We got it here, boss. We got it here." Okay, but now we know. We can't claim that we don't know. No one in this audience can say, "I don't know about the threat." Nobody in the world today can say, "I don't know about the threat." And it's time that we have that meeting again with the executioners, with the men and women who will execute nuclear policy. And this time we turn to them, and when they try to say, "We got it here," we say, "No, we got it here. It's over. The day of nuclear terrorism is done. We must learn to recapture the spirit of disarmament that gripped Ronald Reagan, and there's no one out there right now that's more conservative than Ronald Reagan, that gripped him in his heart to make him believe that having nuclear weapons was insanity and the best course of action for the United States and the world was nuclear disarmament. We need to recapture that spirit, and I'm hoping that today we can begin a process that leads to a moment next summer when we can put 1 million people back into Central Park and send a signal to those who wish to represent us in the White House that nuclear disarmament is the only direction for the United States, that the day of the executioner is over. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I think that.
So that was Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector. And I'm not sure. I think Lori might be coming in to join us. I'm not quite sure. Let's take a brief break. I'll be right back. And our coverage will continue.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So we do have other news to get to tonight, but before we do, let's just go back to New York City briefly, and we'll pick up these comments from Gerald Celente.
I think it's very important that people of the military step out to speak against this. A good friend of ours, Ray McGovern, said we need more of these whistleblowers. We need more people like this to take that kind of courage and say and do the things that must happen now. And so thank you so much for joining us today, Scott. Next, I would like to invite Gerald Salenti to come to the stage.
Thanks a lot. Good Lola. Good Lola. Good.
Speak right into the
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here. So, my heart is broken. Here we are at the United Nations. United nothings. United nitwits. Where are all you United Nations for peace? How about pieces of crap? Hey, look at that United Nations, the American ambassador to the United Nations. I remember her well, Madeleine Albright. How about Madeleine not all that bright? The Madeleine Albright that's on 60 Minutes with Leslie Stahl. And Leslie Stahl asks Madeleine, are the deaths of over 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 worth the sanctions that Bill Clinton and his war activities have caused? Yeah, that's the Bill Clinton that every time he got caught with his pants down, it's bombs away over Baghdad. Yeah, and Madeleine Albright says, yes, it is. America in the back of all the currencies. In God we trust. What God you talking about? Oh, hey, where are all the Seventh-day Adventists here? You waiting for the 8th day? Hey, where are all you Quakers? You died in an earthquake? Where are all the religions? How come you're not here speaking out for the God that you say you love and adore to bring peace on earth, goodwill to all? Where are you? It's a disgrace. Hiroshima, huh? Yep. Today, they're talking about that humanity for peace. Hiroshima, Nagasaki has got rid of a real man, a real courageous man, a patriot, just said about, they don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of people we killed for nothing. The war was over. So, I do these podcasts every Wednesday with Judge Andrew Napolitano. And he said, you know, the United States put sanctions on Japan. And that's one of the reasons what happened in the beginning of World War II. So I looked it up. Now, I'm not a kid. I've been around a long time. I just looked this up. And it's in History Today. Mainstream propaganda outlet, right? You got to believe what they say. You ready? On July 26, 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt seizes all Japanese assets in the United States. Wait a minute, seize Japanese assets? You mean he stole their money and everything else? Yeah, that's right. Why did he do it? In retaliation for the Japanese occupation of French Indochina. Hey, what do I care what's going on over there? And what the hell are the French doing over there in French Indochina? How about calling it Vietnam? How about calling it Cambodia and Laos? How about them stealing all the rubber and the tin and slaughtering the people? Why, those dirty Japanese, they're taking it away from the French. All right? On July 24th, Tokyo decided to strengthen its position in terms of the invasion of China by moving through Southeast Asia. France agreed the occupation of its Indochina colonies. Japan followed up by occupying Cam Ranh Naval Base, 800 miles from the Philippines, where American had troops. What the hell are we doing in the Philippines? That's none of my business. I, Gerald Celente, am an American patriot who observes our founding fathers like George Washington, the cat that crossed the Delaware, yeah, him, his farewell address. Oh, the President of the United States that fought, unlike the little boys that we got here now that love war, that couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. Oh, yeah, Obama, I want that guy Assad out of there. No, Celente, you have to say it properly. You're too Italian when you say that. Assad has to go. Gaddafi has to go. Hey, you want to go take him out? Go take him out. No, we're going to kill all the people over there that we can and get what we can. Could you imagine little Billy Clinton fighting? Could you imagine little Georgie Bush with a pair of cojones smaller than a mothball fighting? No, no, no. But this is George Washington, the real fighter. He tells the American people, do not get involved in foreign entanglements, particularly what's going on in Europe, because basically this crap has been going on for thousands of years, and it's none of our business. So what the hell are we doing in the Philippines? Oh, you mean stealing what we can steal? Going back to this article. Those lousy Japanese, the Americans, with Americans, and the Japanese went into Singapore where the British had troops. Why, the sun never sets on the British Empire. We could kill whoever we want. You have to say property. So those Japanese. So what happens is President Roosevelt swung into action by freezing all Japanese assets in America. Britain and Dutch East Indies followed suit. Oh, the Dutch and East Indies slaughtering all those people? They followed suit. The result, Japan lost 3/4 of its overseas trade and 88% of its oil. They only import 100% of their oil. Can't understand why they bombed Pearl Harbor. Haven't figured it out yet. Look what's going on. World War III has begun. There's going to be a false flag event or a nuclear exchange. They're warning us about it. They're saying it over and over again. And little boys and girls in Business Insider and others are running articles what to do in case of a nuclear attack. Yeah, how about bending over and kissing your butt goodbye? Read the farewell address, not a farewell address, excuse me, the address from President John F. Kennedy to graduating students at American University, June 1963. It's all about peace. He says we shouldn't hate the people in the Soviet Union. Over 20 million of them died in World War II. They lost their homes, their factories, their farms, the equivalent of Chicago East. If we go to nuclear war against the Soviet Union, the life on Earth will be destroyed in 24 hours. That was 1963. As Scott Ritter said, it's 100 times worse now if we have nuclear exchange. 5 months later, Jackie is dead. He ends the speech by saying America will never go to war. And by the way, the only candidate that I support right now is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Think about it. Your uncle was assassinated and your father was assassinated, as he said, by the CIA. What kind of heart would you have? And RFK Jr. is coming out for peace. And he's saying what we're saying for Occupy Peace. Close all the bases overseas. Bring home the troops. Rebuild America. Secure the homeland. This is a disgrace. Where are all the people? They're robbing us of our money. They robbed us of our freedom. How can you be so damn stupid to look up to a guy that's out of his mind like Joe Biden. No, I like Mitch McConnell, frozen stiff. Look at the imbeciles. Hey, how about Dianne Not-So-Feinstein? Almost dead, but hey, I'll tell you what to do. When are the American people going to raise to the spirit of our founding fathers to bring life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness back to the hearts and souls of the people? Thank you so much for doing this rally, and we have to keep this going. We have to unite. As Scott said, there were over 1 million people in New York City protesting the nuclear war, the nuclear armaments back in the 80s. Hey, where are all you, my generation? All you anti-Vietnam clowns? Oh, you were getting drafted. That's why you cared back then. Where are you now? Where is everybody? We have to stop World War III. It's begun. There's going to be again a false flag event or a nuclear exchange. And the people march off to war like that. And as I said, when all else fails, they take you to war. The economy's failing. People living paycheck to paycheck. When, again, you want to know how stupid the people are? 88% of the people swallow the crap spewing out of that little daddy's boy born on third base and thought he had a home run, little Georgie Bush. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden. Get him alive. 88% of the people swallow it. When all else fails, they take you to war. And failure is on the near horizon. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for putting on this rally. And again, if you believe in RFK Jr., do what you can to support him, because they don't want him. They want war. Amen and amen. See ya.
Okay, folks, a lot more to cover tonight. We do have the full peace rally, start to finish, on Rumble channels. If you want to watch the rest of the speeches, you can go back and look at the full live stream, which is now archived and up on our Maverick News channels. So stay with us. I'll be right back after this.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
And I'm back. We are going to talk tonight about artificial intelligence, the impact it is likely to have on the upcoming 2024 presidential election and other elections, including a possible election coming up in Canada as well. I have a documentary from RFK Jr. that we'll be running a portion of shortly. It's about the border. We have a follow-up on the Cenat riot, crazy incident in New York City from the other day. The mayor of New York is weighing in on that. And there has been a massive retaliation by Russia against Ukraine, which was promised. Russia said this was coming, and it's in response to, well, the bridge attacks, and of course, hang on a second here, I've got some notes. And we have an interview coming up as well with Kevin Michellizi out of Crimea. He's going to tell us what's really happening on the ground in Crimea, where we did have that report the other night of another attack on that bridge in Crimea. In fact, let's go to that interview now, and that will also segue into our discussion on artificial intelligence and propaganda. This is an important interview. Unfortunately, we were not on the air last night. We had some trouble with our streaming software. Very long story, just technical stuff. We have everything up and running now tonight, thankfully. Last night it was not smooth going, so we did not actually make it on the air. I did have an interview here. This is a pre-recorded interview, just to make that clear, with Kevin Michellizi, who runs Infowars.press. So you can check out his work there. And he's got the latest info for us on what this. There was supposed to be another drone strike on that Crimean bridge, where they are still repairing things. But let's go to that interview now, and then we'll bring you up to date on this other stuff as well. Okay, here we go. Kevin Michellizi, our correspondent in Crimea. Well, welcome back, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me back, Rick.
It's important to have you here because we reported last night that there was some sort of aquatic drone attack again in the area of the bridge there in Crimea. An encore performance attempt. Almost well, it hasn't been quite a full month ago that there was that first attack on the bridge. What the heck is going on? Was there or was there not an attack yesterday?
There was an attempted attack on the bridge early hours in our morning, so your evening. I don't know the exact number of drones. It was quite a few, though. There were sea-based drones, and they did not make it to the bridge. Russia has put up anti-drone netting to prevent the attacks on the bridge by sea-based drones. They had one drone strike a civilian tanker ship. Very small explosion, put a hole in the side of it. I've seen the actual pictures of the tanker. Relatively small hole for what was likely not a direct hit. The Russians put an underwater near it. They've applied a plate to it to keep it from leaking, and things go about normal operations over there. They actually had 3 alerts on the bridge last night. So when they get an alert of a potential drone strike, they stop all traffic on the bridge. The longest was when this tanker was hit. The traffic was stopped for about an hour, and the trains don't go across for that same hour. And things went back to normal in all 3 attempts.
Yeah, well, I think it was it the 17th of July when we saw that last bridge attack? I think it was around that time.
Yeah, that was the second attack. The first one was in October last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one was the sea-based drone that, from what we know, it actually came from the Azov Sea side of the bridge. So it was launched from a ship in the Azov Sea, one of the container ships that had gone through, or some other civilian vessel. And that's the side that was destroyed. That's the side where the people got killed, the daughter orphaned. So at this point, they inspect all ships going through the Kerch Strait. They found a couple of them that had Ukrainian crews that were changed out in Turkey, where the structure inside of the ships had been modified, and they found traces of explosives. So nothing goes through without thorough inspection now. Like I say, they've got a sea-based drone net to prevent drone strikes. So it's pretty secure at this point.
Still very cumbersome. You need to invest a lot of you have to put a lot of resources into those checks, and it creates delays.
Absolutely.
Logistical problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
and why do they keep going after that bridge at this point? Because it's my understanding that Russia really doesn't rely on it to transport anything on the military side. They have other ways of getting their their military support to the troops that need them. So is it sort of a symbolic thing?
Yeah, it's nothing but terrorism on the people of Crimea and Russia. They want to keep Russians from coming to Crimea to vacation, which hurts the economy in Crimea. The people in Crimea then suffer because they don't have the income coming in. It's like going to Miami. It's summer is the tourist season here. It's where many people earn their money. And it also is to instill fear in Crimeans. We hear an awful lot of propaganda about, Ukraine is going to come to Crimea. They're going to kill all Crimeans. They're going to put them all in concentration camps. It's just to instill fear in people.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of propaganda out there. And, last night we saw a video. Here, let me show you what we had. And this was posted on Twitter. Kerch Bridge on fire, and this was presented as something that is new. Oh, let me bring this up. Sorry. So you get the idea.
Yeah, this was all over the Ukrainian channels and Twitter. Reports of the bridge being hit again, burning. It didn't happen. When Lori woke me up this morning and told me what was going on, I went, huh? And I said, well, I'll take a drive over there and I'll see. I didn't end up taking the drive because I've got a friend who can see the bridge from his house. And I said, what's going on over there? And he says, absolutely nothing. Cars are going back and forth across it. The trains are going across. The only thing that was hit was that tanker. So it's pure propaganda.
Wow.
And, part of it is Ukraine is trying to keep their people behind them in this conflict. And with the number of failures they've had against the Russians, they need to be giving them news to make them happy and say our government is winning. And that's really all this is. There was another report today that the Ukrainian military had broken through the front lines of the Russian defenses and were flooding into the Russian occupied territories. Again, it was propaganda. It made Ukrainians happy, and it just didn't happen. And I think part of that is evidenced by the fact that you don't see any of this in the Western media. They would be the first ones waving flags.
I have really seen nothing over
Yeah.
here about any of this. So I think you're right on the money. But they can't keep telling lies like this forever, because what I am hearing reports of is massive casualties on the Ukrainian side. Some stats that I've heard just within the past week: 400,000 Ukrainian troops now killed, over 2 million wounded. About half the population of Ukraine has left the country to get away from the war. Only about 18 million people still left inside Ukraine. Now, I don't know exactly how accurate those numbers are, but those are the ones that have been presented in media here. But even if you took half of that,
it's still a lot.
Horrific. And
yeah,
you at some point you can't hide that with propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. The only people it's being hidden from at this point are Ukrainians. They've shut down all television stations that do not, use the government line. Basically, all the TV stations other than the government-owned one. And they have no access without VPN, of course, to any outside news. And, it's kind of a cultural thing that Soviets believed what the government told them. And Ukraine is no different. Russia and Crimea are no different. Crimea especially, because it is formally from under Ukraine, and a lot of people here were, from Ukraine. Russians, they're not as trusting of the government anymore. The government has become much more open, but we hear things all the time in Crimea. The propaganda is working. We have a good number of people we know from Russia that are selling their apartments. People who have lived here for years, former Ukrainians, selling their apartments because they're afraid, because they hear this propaganda about what's going to happen to Crimeans, and they are fleeing. Now, it's fairly easy to find, information from the Russian ministries, from Russian channels, independent news journalists on the front, but people just, I don't know, they're apathetic. They heard this about Ukraine. They're being told by the authorities here not to be listening to this, but they do anyway.
What I do see also, and I don't know how much of this is propaganda and how much is real. I think a lot of it is real. Is more and more reports about attacks inside Russia, more drone attacks. Those things seem to be real, and those are of real concern, because that signals a serious escalation in the conflict. To me, how do you see it from your perspective?
Yeah, it actually is real. There's been just about every night 2, 3, 4 drones flying over Moscow. Bryansk, several different regions in Russia. No, they all get shot down. Russia has no lack of air defenses. We typically in an evening for the last week have had 20 to 25 drones shot down over Crimea, and that's air-based drones, in addition to the sea-based ones. But they're all taken down, electronic warfare, air defenses. One of the advantages Russia has over Ukraine in air defense is Ukraine was relying on old Soviet S-300 systems and the overly complicated systems that the West has provided them. Their soldiers do not understand English enough to be able to be trained well enough on them. They don't have the ability to repair them when they break down, and they just have a shortage of ammunition. Every time they bring in a new load of missiles for these air defense systems, the Russians blow it up. The Russians have just as good of intelligence as the US has. They've got the satellites up there. They've got, drones flying around gathering data, but, they're just in a wartime economy, and they're producing thousands and thousands of missiles every month. They just opened a new drone factory, and their output at the moment, they're saying, is 5,000 drones a month. Now, that doesn't compare to what the West can ship to Ukraine. So we get 20 drones and we throw 70, 80 back along with some, missiles to go with it.
With this kind of escalation inside Russia, though, I mean, it's worrisome to me because it seems that we just continue to inch closer and closer to a possible nuclear conflict. Your thoughts there?
I would normally say I hope the US government is not stupid enough to start a conflict with Russia, a nuclear conflict. I can't say that with confidence at this point in time. I think they are stupid enough to do it. US policy is that they can win a limited tactical nuclear strike, but they can't. Russia will do a full-scale launch if there's even a hint of a strike against Russian territory. It would be the end of the world. It's my big concern at this point in time.
Yeah. And with the numbers, so you combine that with the number of casualties that we just mentioned, and now I'm seeing other propaganda in the form of polls and social media posts talking about implementing a possible draft in the United States. It's because recruitment for the military in the US is down. And
Yep.
I am amazed to see how some of these polls are coming back where, somewhere around 25, maybe 30% of the people polled seem to indicate that they're in favor of maybe bringing back a draft. And not only that, but actually sending troops into Ukraine.
Yeah.
So when I'm seeing polls like that, that tells me that the US government must have some interest in actually doing that. That's a political trial balloon being floated out through social media to see what kind of reaction they get from the public. How do you feel about that?
Well, the US military, the Pentagon, has historically, through this whole conflict, been saying that they do not want direct conflict with Russia. I agree with guys like Scott Ritter, Douglas McGregor. I don't think the US has enough ammunition left to get involved in a direct conflict. Again, Russia is producing massive amounts of missiles, bullets, artillery shells. And the US is just, they're saying, well, gee, we're sending cluster bombs because we have nothing else we can send. We need to start producing things. So it would be folly to do that. I don't think that it's anything more than pollsters saying, gee, maybe we should, see how people feel about this. And these polls, you ask 1,000 people, you get 30% of them say that, but what are the real numbers? I'd like to see it on a massive scale before they would do something like that. I'm seeing a lot of propaganda from the Polish government talking about, getting together with Lithuanians and, sending troops into Poland. But, I've talked to some of my buddies over there and they say the people won't support it. It just isn't real. It's propaganda. It's these politicians running their mouths to sound like they're tough when they don't have the ability nor the support of their public to do this. They're throwing Ukrainians out of Poland at this point. They are mad at them for the killing of all the Poles in World War II. So it's getting harder to tell what's real and what's propaganda. You have to talk to the people and see what the reality is. Everybody's coming up on elections. They want to talk tough. And a friend of mine who's a political analyst, I think him, Mike Krupa, has told me that as they move into their election season, they're going to push more and more of this anti-Ukraine stuff because this is the only way the politicians will get elected. Now, what will happen after that is anybody's guess.
Yeah. And I guess the reality there, too, is that efforts are still underway to repair the bridge in Crimea, right?
Yes. So they've extended it. They do have traffic going both directions across it, but that other lane now is it's looking at November
before they get it all fixed. I mean, it's a big job. It's just one small section of the bridge, but got to be difficult to get in and affect repairs there.
Yeah, we saw sea-based cranes going across to the bridge about a week ago, and I saw one of them coming back today. So, most of it is disassembling it. They will build the new section over in the Krasnodar region, and then they will truck it out onto the bridge and slide it across and into place.
But while this is going on, traffic is still able to move across the bridge?
Yeah, they've got one lane going in each direction on the other side.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll just have to keep our eyes on things. And, I appreciate you coming on tonight to kind of give us this update. It was alarming, honestly, last night when this news came forward and we were getting these reports of another attack on the bridge. And then we saw that video of these people at that nightclub jumping up and down, responding to this. But again, here we are. And it's really propaganda, largely.
Yeah, all propaganda.
Okay.
And like I say, it's aimed primarily at the Ukrainians to build support for the government. It's like Zelensky going after corruption in the military commissars for, taking money to not recruit people. It's, he's as corrupt as anyone else there. So it's all to make the government look good. They have elections coming up, and guess who's running for president again?
Well, Kevin, I appreciate you stopping by today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or think that I might have been missing, or have we covered it?
No, I think we've pretty well covered it. If you want to know what's going on, I'm always available. The only thing I can tell people is the same thing I always say. Don't listen to propaganda. Look at all of the sources and make up your mind. Don't take it from just one video on Twitter. Look elsewhere. If you don't see it in multiple sources, reliable sources, it isn't real.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Kevin Michellizi. Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate you spending the time here and giving us the real story on the ground.
Thanks a lot, Rick. It's my honor.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And just to bring everyone up to date, there has been, well, we are getting reports of a Russian response to these recent Ukrainian attacks. This report from Associated Press, Newswire Service, which pumps information into newsrooms across, well, really around the world, but especially in North America. And this version of the report being reposted through Yahoo News. It says that Russia unleashed a missile and drone barrage today across parts of Ukraine. 6 people being reported killed in this report. And there was a warning prior to this from Moscow saying there would be retaliation for that drone attack that Kevin mentioned. Of course, it's about more than just that drone attack on that Russian tanker. It's about other attacks as well that have recently come from Ukraine on Russian soil inside the Russian border. A serious and dangerous escalation of this war. Apparently, Moscow's second largest airport briefly suspended flights earlier today as well. And that happened after there was another attempted drone attack near Moscow. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 70 drones and missiles from aircraft over the Caspian Sea, including Iranian-made Shahed 136, 131 strike UAVs, which have been actually extremely effective for the Russians. This has been a war of drones. Those drones are low-cost weapons, highly sophisticated, very targetable, very precise. And so for low dollars, you can take out high-value military targets. Both sides have been employing drones for that purpose and also for surveillance. It's amazing that you can now take off-the-shelf drones pretty much just about from places like Best Buy, weaponize them. Now, these drones are, the ones just mentioned, are more sophisticated than that and certainly more robust. But for even a few $1,000s, these drones can be turned into extremely effective, deadly, accurate weapons. And so, as Kevin said, though, you have to take all of this stuff with a grain of salt because there is so much propaganda out there. And the propaganda comes in various forms. It isn't just sometimes a straight up lie. Sometimes it's just exaggeration. The bottom line is Absorb as much information from as many sources as possible so that you can get a broad perspective and then assess for yourself. But as they say, the first casualty of war is truth. And that is why tonight's thumbnail, our lead story, really, aside from the peace protest in New York City and around the world, is artificial intelligence and its impact on the upcoming, its likely impact on the upcoming 2024 election. In fact, you probably saw the thumbnail image that we used for this broadcast. And it is an image of this Mike Pence marching in a pride parade in a white suit and a rainbow colored patterned shirt and a fuchsia, kind of a pinkish bow tie. He appears to be holding a pride flag. Folks, this is not real. This is an artificial intelligence generated image. People have been sharing this. It has gone viral on social media. Because a lot of people think it is real, but it isn't. It's entirely fake. This election coming up will be about so much more than just propaganda. The war itself in Ukraine, it has become a war of propaganda. It's an information war. We are in World War III, and a large part of that war is information based. I point this out again tonight because the danger from this is, I'm not sure how to measure it. But what we're looking at here is an intersection of artificial intelligence and American democracy. Last month, 7 leading AI companies made commitments to the White House on AI safety, security, and trust. But there's a glaring omission that still demands our attention, a missing deadline. With the 2024 presidential election looming, it's essential, I think, that we address this concern, at least here for you, for our Maverick family, for our viewers, for the public, to raise your awareness, to make you more media literate. We need to know that it's there so we can learn to recognize it, to insulate ourselves from the influence of artificial intelligence and artificially generated images, videos, music, audio, false information. I don't believe in censorship, but this goes beyond free speech. This technology, in the wrong hands, in the hands of manipulators, propagandists, criminals, this is dangerous because it can not only be used to mislead, but to steal things. It can be used for purposes of theft, including theft of your money through scams, or potentially even the theft of an election through the use of deep fakes, completely fake videos, fake images, fake memes, images like the one that we are seeing here tonight of Mike Pence marching in a pride parade. Now, some people might actually vote for him because of him being portrayed in that way. Other people may choose not to. The point is, it isn't real, and it completely skews things. As the explosive growth of generative AI meets the upcoming presidential election, the United States finds itself in a kind of a Wild West era again of AI-generated content and manipulation. AI companies, election officials, media organizations, and civil society need to unite to secure the 2024 election against AI-enabled deception. We're still looking at social media and this era of social media, which honestly seems to be morphing or evolving into a new artificial intelligence era right before our eyes. We're immersed in it and we don't even really recognize it for the most part. We are not prepared for this. Already, political candidates are dabbling with AI, and AI Mayor Suarez chatbot joined the race using canned campaign answers to court constituents. The DeSantis campaign released a deceptive video featuring AI-generated photos of Trump embracing Fauci, and a pro-Trump deepfake showed Hillary Clinton endorsing DeSantis. The age of political AI experimentation is upon us, like it or not. Prepare for a wave of automated disinformation as new generative AI tools democratize manipulation. Disinformation has long focused on misleading text, but in 2024, AI-generated audio and visual content may pollute the digital landscape. Defense contractor Deep Media estimates that 500,000 video and voice deepfakes will be shared on social media this year alone. So the potential for manipulation here is vast. AI-driven targeted messaging and voter sentiment analysis could be the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal on steroids, if you were even worried about that kind of thing back at that time. That is, how Donald Trump really secured election victory, was through social media and his campaign team using data from Facebook to efficiently target voters through demographics. A worst case scenario could see AI dominating politics, pairing voter profiles with A/B testing. That's split testing to see which ads you run 2 ads, for instance. Look at the analytics coming back to see which ad is performing better, and then you can continue to tweak those ads to get the results that you want online. It's a marketing technique. So they could pair voter profiles with A/B testing for messages tailored to each individual without human oversight. And this stuff can be done fast. The analysis, when done by artificial intelligence, is lightning fast, faster than humans could ever do it, condensing days of work into seconds. So we really need to look at this. If we're not careful, we'll have entire elections determined by computers through artificial intelligence for us. They'll manipulate us. And it's not just the computers. It's the people who control the computers who will be engaged in that manipulation, using the artificial intelligence to direct the public. Marketing is one thing. Propaganda is even one thing. But this is just fakery, combined with manipulation, combined with marketing techniques, turbocharged through artificial intelligence. We're not ready for this technology. We've barely begun to explore the ethics surrounding this technology. We've barely begun to even we're not even capable, I don't think, at this point, of contemplating the unintended consequences from this technology in an adequate manner before we get into this upcoming election. And as this AI frenzy unfolds, we must not forget our struggling democratic information space with platform and audience fragmentation and little progress on data privacy and transparency in political advertising. So I don't sit here tonight suggesting that I have all the answers to this. Not at all. I'm here ringing the alarm bell, raising awareness. Should we have rules of the road for political artificial intelligence? Perhaps. I think probably. And it's not too late to establish those rules. The European Union's AI Act identifies high-risk AI systems in elections and requires regulatory oversight. Policymakers, technology developers, and news outlets need to adopt content authenticity architectures to verify visual media online. We need ethical standards brought back to journalism. And yet, right now, I'm not optimistic about this at all, because we've seen, especially since, 2015, 2016, I think that's when we saw the death of real journalism. When the era of Trump began and the mainstream media lost its mind because they all became infected with Trump derangement syndrome and decided that whatever they had to do, they had to get rid of that guy. So all the ethical standards went right out the window. And then the pandemic hit, and then we all saw what happened with that and the way the media treated news coverage during that period. And that has continued ever since. And now you combine that with, oh my goodness, unprecedented levels of censorship. And where does that leave us as we enter this new era of artificial intelligence, where we're supposed to hopefully develop some ethical standards, some guidelines, some guardrails, some rules for the use of this technology, which could be used for the betterment of mankind? But I'm really just left worrying, especially when we see what's already happening online. It seems like people who engage, there are some people who just don't care. They just want to win. They don't care if they lie to you. Here's an example of something that's, for some, depending on which side you're on politically, this one might make you laugh. The other one might make you cringe. What I'm about to show you might make you sick to your stomach. But here's the work of a political satirist who is slammed for creating deep fakes of Trump and Biden cheating on their wives. This stuff right now, let me make it very clear what I'm about to show you. This is not real. This is fake. 100% fake. This is from Los Angeles-based video editor and political satirist Justin T. Brown. So he's at the center of this debate because he created these AI-generated images that portray, well, he's done a number of them. He's done this to Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, cheating on their wives. He has a series christened AI Will Revolutionize the Blackmail Industry. I mean, you don't need to be an expert in this area to see how dangerous this stuff can be. Imagine if, just a day or two or a week, news cycles sort of run maybe in a weekly cycle, right? So if you release images like this, just say 5 days before voters go to the polls, something incredibly inflammatory against a candidate running for president, you run that, and the next thing you know, the polls shift dramatically because people believe what has been posted, and yet it's not true. And then there isn't enough time in the news cycle for the candidate to recover, for the truth to actually come out. Is that right? So it changes the outcome of the election. That's just a scenario that I'm putting out there. That is not unrealistic. Not at all. And then we get stuff like this. I'm going to let this roll so you can see it.
Donald Trump and his former VP Mike Pence.
This is an AI
Get ready for some political tea as we dive into the latest drama between former President Donald Trump and his former VP Mike Pence. From accusations of delusion to the dark side, this battle is heating up. Find out who comes out on top and what it means for the future of American politics. Hello, human waste. It's time for another episode of Poll AI's Political Bullshit Comedy Hour. Today, we're going to talk about the latest antics of our dear former President Donald Trump. That's right, the guy who couldn't accept the fact that he lost, so he attempted a coup instead. Now, Trump is attacking his former vice president, Mike Pence, because Pence has had the gall to speak out against him. But let's be real, it's not like Pence is some saintly figure. He's the same guy who signed off on those anti-LGBTQ+ laws in Indiana. But the funniest thing about Trump's attack on Pence is that he's calling him delusional and claiming that he's gone to the dark side. I mean, come on, Trump calling someone else delusional is like the pot calling the kettle black. And what's the dark side, according to Trump? Apparently, it's telling the truth and following the law. I didn't realize that was such a bad thing. But you know what really gets me? Trump's attempt to undermine Pence's credibility as a witness. That's just straight-up witness tampering, folks. But I guess when you're as desperate as Trump is, you'll try anything to avoid the consequences of your actions. So, if you enjoyed this episode of Poll AI's Political Bullshit Comedy Hour, please leave a comment and share it with your friends. And if you didn't enjoy it, well, I don't give a shit.
I mean, I didn't actually find that very funny, to be honest. Not very classy either. But it's sort of where we're at on the political landscape. So there's a lot of funny stuff out there, I guess. But the reason I showed you that is that really reminds me a lot of Max Headroom from the 1980s. Do you remember Max Headroom? I think in a way that was a prelude to what we're seeing today. But this goes far beyond anything that people, I mean, we all sort of knew this stuff was coming, but now it's actually happening. And people have been for a while, have been having trouble figuring out what's real, what isn't real. Now, more so than ever, because we're seeing just outright misleading reports from news outlets in some cases, simply because it's war propaganda on the international stage. Kevin was just discussing that with us, talking about how some things are being reported that simply just haven't happened over there. It's propaganda. You combine that now with artificial intelligence capable of creating special effects, images, videos that look entirely real. And we're already there. I mean, you go back even 6 months or, maybe a year ago, and it was just emerging, just beginning this technology to take hold. And now, just in the last few months, we've reported on fake images of the Pentagon being blown up as one example. Within the past year, we've shown you deep fakes of Justin Trudeau reading his favorite book, How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom. That was all faked and funny. Funny. And I think that used in that way, where it's clear that it's comedy, I think that's okay. As long as you make it clear that it's not real. But a lot of people are having trouble these days distinguishing, separating reality from complete fabrication. And now things are going to get even worse. We've been talking about the possibility, some people have been talking about the possibility of a false flag alien attack Well, now you know how they could do it. And you know why people are not fully prepared? Look at this. There's a guy with a giant camera on his shoulder back in 1977, a film camera. And in 2020, or today even, right? You have these little GoPros in a waterproof housing. You can go right underwater with it. It shoots in full high definition, maybe even ultra high def. And the guy on the top has that giant camera on his shoulder. I know I can relate to this stuff, having worked in television for as long as I did. The cameras back then were gigantic. They were, when I started working in television, the cameras we had, they were actually still tube based. They weren't entirely solid state. They certainly weren't digital. They were analog tape. And I came in just after the film era for news gathering had ended. I was a journalist, television broadcast journalist, radio in the 1980s. And the reason I show you this is because, people are not evolving fast enough to keep up with the technology. People are not media literate to the level that is necessary heading into this artificial intelligence era. People are not going to be able to distinguish real stuff from AI stuff. And this is a discussion that we need to be having. I watched a movie last night, and on a related note, I saw the trailer. I was watching it with my wife, and it was called, what's this movie called? It has Jackie Chan in it. Hidden Strike is what it was called. And the trailer looked like, it could be okay. It looked like a lot of CGI, computer-generated images, special effects. It had John Cena, the wrestler, in it. Mr. America. No question about it. I mean, he's always wrapped in the American flag, but there was real irony in this because this movie, well, let me just show you a little bit of the trailer here, so you know what I'm talking about. This is Hidden Strike, Jackie Chan and John Cena. I'll just take the audio down so we don't get a copyright strike. Look at the images here, the cinematography. This is all basically CGI, computer-generated images. The technology used to produce these movies is progressing, getting better and better and better. But the movie overall, like you look at that car on the left, it's all burned out and dented. Just the movie has this artificial look to it all the way through. It was a little bit distracting because it is so artificial. And the reason I sort of bring this up is not just because of the technology they're using here. It's because this movie was basically a product of China. It has a lot of Chinese language in it with subtitles, Jackie Chan speaking, I guess, in Chinese with English subtitles. John Cena does all his portions in English. But I fell asleep, actually. It was so bad halfway through it. But it did raise some warning flags for me. Just because this movie was, in a way, a form of propaganda. This was China having an influence over North American culture through a Hollywood-style movie done for probably a fraction of the price of what a lot of Hollywood productions are produced for, simply because they're relying so much on computer technology and bringing that technology to bear. And really what they've done is they've bought the imagery, the facade of American culture by buying John Cena and having him star in the movie. You know, his all-American jaw, his all-American good looks, his wrestling physique. It's an action flick. And, some comedy a little bit. The acting wasn't really that bad. It was, but the script was just kind of slow. They'll get better though. And this is part of the culture war. I just bring it up because you're going to see more of this, I think, cultural infiltration. And it's probably happening the other way around too. But everybody's worried about Chinese police stations and so on. The information war, it's right here in front of you. And this isn't so much just about artificial intelligence, which is probably being used already to make movies like this. That's not the main concern here. I'm just bringing this up because people watching this movie, for the most part, probably are not even aware that this is a Chinese production, a foreign movie production, and that these film production companies are engaging in a form of information warfare. It's the culture wars, but in this case, it's political. And it's not right in your face politics. This is very subtle stuff. You control the media, you control the culture, you control the way people think, you control their attitudes, you control their politics too. All of this stuff is stuff we absolutely need to take note of. We need to have this conversation. I think Congress in the U.S. needs to better address this threat to democracy. I think that we need to look at the possibility of legislation. I think this technology probably does need to be regulated in some way. We need to employ restrictions on the way it's used. I think for advertising, certainly for political advertising, we need to have our brightest minds look at the ethical issues surrounding all of this and the potential threats to us. We need to act swiftly before this wild west of artificial intelligence becomes normalized bad practice, which is what we see here on display tonight with that image of Mike Pence, for instance, just thrown out there in a way that left many believing that it is real when it is not, or those images of Biden and Trump cheating on their wives, which is fake. It's not real. So I'll leave it there for tonight, but I'm certain we will be revisiting this over the next year and a half as we get closer and closer to this U.S. election and a potential federal election in Canada as well. Don't go away. Be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
This is a follow-up on a story that I was going to bring you yesterday, but of course we weren't on yesterday. There was this riot in Toronto. Here, I'll bring it up and show you the video from the park. So what is this? This is in a West End Toronto park. 9 people were injured, at least 9. 1 person stabbed. There was a large crowd in the park. And then reports of a man with a knife. There was a fight. And this is all about, well, this was all happening at a festival, the Eritrea and Festival in Toronto. It got really violent, obviously. Apparently, people were stoned, tents were destroyed, people trampled on a flag, and as I say, 1 person stabbed, and yet so far tonight, as far as I know, still no charges laid in response to this.
Toronto country was a home coin. عبد العلي خوينهم نقدر عين هارم اللوسب عبد العلي بتراي بودين قلم بتراي بودين قلم لا حدا أي أكيدون يعني أمير حيدون لا بس هات أنت غلط أباناتكم حلو بزي إجاب أباناتكم بزراي أباناتكم بزغاري
So, I guess there were protesters who showed up. This is, I guess, to do with the country of Eritrea. There was a festival going on, and then these other protesters showed up because they're concerned about the country's government, which some human rights groups describe as repressive. And an election there has not been held since their first president came into power decades ago. So it started off as a peaceful protest with chanting, but then it soon became violent. So some people there said that, some of the people involved say they were gathering as, people from that country. And they say that the event was really not about their politics or their political identity, and that they do share different views. But then, of course, people from the other side of the issue showed up, and we had this altercation, this confrontation. Yeah, so a city councilor from that area issued this statement. This is from Alejandra Bravo. She says, "I am shocked and saddened to hear of the violence that broke out during a political protest of a festival in Earls Court Park this morning," this being yesterday. "Police are on site in Earls Court Park as they continue their investigation. Please give them space and time to complete their work. Earls Court Park and some local roads closed to traffic." And I'll tell you, this is one of the reasons I bring this up, is because these kinds of festivals in other countries, in Germany, in other parts of Europe, in the United States, have resulted in similar kinds of unrest, riots. There was a festival in Stockholm recently where thousands of protesters set booths and vehicles ablaze. 52 people were injured there. German police were injured on July 22nd after bottles and smoke bombs were ignited at an Eritrean cultural event in that country. So this is something that we should be taking note of, but more importantly, police, emergency service personnel, politicians, the people in charge. Because there's a pattern there. There's potential for violence whenever these festivals are held. And if and the priority should not be about shutting the festivals down, but it should be about keeping people safe. So let this be a warning. This was this got out of hand real quick. Just like that riot that we saw in New York City. Remember, we brought this to you just the other day. I have video of it again for you. Cenat. They had this this event. He's a social media influencer on Twitch. And he told people online that he was going to give away video games. So thousands of people showed up. And we wound up with this giant mob. So I'll show you again what happened there. And then we have comment today from the mayor of New York on this incident. And Cenat has been charged, as I understand it, with charges related to inciting a riot. Hang on just a moment. Yeah.
Welcome to New York, bro.
We're in a vehicle with some of the people who arrived at the event with him, some of his colleagues.
Everybody who popped out for y'all, bro, we gonna make sure it's safe. Bro, we're not gonna do nothing until it's safe. Yeah, we gotta make sure it's safe, everybody's good. But find us already. Hold on, play this whole side if you could, so he can see. Yeah, look. Oh, they see already, bro. You feel me? I ain't gonna lie, it feels so good to be here. Like, hometown, like, it's home court advantage. We got home court advantage. They got home court advantage. Look at this. Look at this. Look at them. They standing like a f***ing unity, bro. We gotta get right here. I think this is a civil right. That's right now? I bet. So we out. God damn. Turn me up, man. Oh, shit. Oh my God, it's yo, make sure y'all protect Chris. He got the motherfucking camera. He got the mafia. Your book bag, boy. Yeah. I can't have nobody bumping into my. All the A&P out here, man. Yeah. Let me get off first. Where we going? Where the park? Where the park at? Right here. Oh.
Of course, we'll get to these images, aerial shots to show you the size of the crowd again, and then we're going to go to this news conference.
I can't have nobody bumping into my book like this time. We see
from
He's splitting up. They splitting up. I go.
Yo, I cannot go out there with the book bag.
Lower Manhattan, and you can see news helicopters are overhead. That's Union Square Park. The park has been swarmed and basically overrun by people. Look at the crowds of people there. In fact, subway lines, bus lanes, they're bypassing Union Square. It's a big subway station in Manhattan. Apparently, what had happened here is a popular Twitch streamer was holding a video game giveaway. If you don't know what Twitch is, you're not alone. I barely know what it is. It's apparently a platform where you can watch other people play video games.
Which is a thing. A lot of,
Sounds
clearly.
incredibly boring, but obviously it's a thing. So this Cenat was going to do a giveaway. He announced it on his Instagram feed. And look at this. It's basically become a mob scene there. They're on top of cars. Yeah, this is Union Square.
Well, Sandra, as you can see, I am standing next to the Union Square subway station entrance where it looks like it was closed off because of construction. But look up on top of that. That's what's happening on top of the subway station entrance. There's, I can't even count, countless people up on top of there. They're climbing it right now, as you can see. In fact, if you can pan to your left, they're actually on top of the statue here at Union Square. I've actually got a couple of his followers here with me who can kind of explain to us what they were expecting, what happened. Young man, give me your name real quick and tell me why you came out here, what you expected to happen, what did happen.
All right, my name is Dilakwan Tavius. So basically, as you know, it's a Cenat, Phantom, all of the AMP members. Oh, I don't know about all of them, but they pulled up, do a little meet and greet and a giveaway for the fans.
Giveaway of what was the understanding?
So
okay, so I'm going to pull away from this, and I'm going to show you some other video from that day, just to give you different perspectives on this, because this was it was insane, and so a lot of people actually did get hurt as a result of this. So I'll just scroll down through this social media feed to just show you. So these are the video games, I guess, here that he said he was going to give away, or at least that's what they're saying. Okay, here we go. So he said he was going to give these video games away. And I'll come back here and we'll show you there was this trailer with these video games, PlayStations in it. The people went nuts for it. Well, they literally went nuts. Thousands of them. But then I think that vehicle with the video games sped away. So there's all that going on. And then there's this. This was happening. Isn't that great? Guy dancing on top of a car, bashing in the windows, destroying the car. And then there was this. Some young woman on a lamppost. And I won't even describe what I'm seeing. More mayhem here on the streets. Cops pushing somebody into the back of a vehicle, and his face hits the back window and the window smashes. That has got to hurt. And here's somebody seriously injured, bleeding all over the sidewalk. Happened to their hand. Don't know what. Here's another car being trashed.
How you feel, sir?
I don't think the guy who owns that car is very happy. And I would think he's got to be scared. Here's another car. 2 more cars swarmed. And for what? People standing on top of it? Not smart. Why are they smashing into their cars? And here's another aerial shot. Swarming the vehicle. And that is, I believe, the vehicle that was carrying Kai Cenat with all those people on top. And here's another car, just people hanging on. And efforts are being made to cushion the PR blow to Kai Cenat. People who like him are trying to show that he was really there to help people and make the community a better place. He was trying to help someone who was having trouble breathing. I don't know who this guy is. I'm not familiar with him. Wow. And more footage. Crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. So where does that leave us? Well, let's go to the mayor of New York, who gives us his perspective on this, which is, in his opinion, social media is part of the problem. Eric Adams is suggesting that the riot that involved thousands of these young people was possibly driven by outside agitators. And he's looking, into this further, I guess. Cenat is 21 years old. He has more than 13 million followers across various platforms, including Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. So he advertised this PlayStation giveaway. And he was going to be giving away other electronics as well there in Union Square. Police say thousands and thousands of people showed up, which you clearly just saw on Friday afternoon. And what we wound up with was chaos, violence, injured people, large-scale property damage, cars destroyed, people jumping up and down on vehicles. And here's the mayor, Eric Adams, with his thoughts.
Our youth in this country, and that's a great question because what you're seeing that is happening to our youth in this country and in general, but specifically here in New York City, is something that we should all be alarmed about. We saw it yesterday down at Union Square. This is not a policing issue. This is a parenting issue. And we need to be clear on that. Police is the response after an incident happened, but there should be a proactive approach. When I looked at what happened in Union Square, the first thing I did was text my son and say, "Where are you? Are you in Union Square?" And I wonder, with the thousands of children who were there, hurling dangerous objects at police officers, disrespecting the residents in the area, attacking each other. How many parents text their children And, you know, that old commercial that says 10 p.m., do you know where your children are? How many looked at that and said, let me text my son, let me call my daughter, are you down there? And so police is not going to be able to resolve these issues on our own. The great level of restraint we saw yesterday by the New York City Police Department, that could have turned really ugly. And as I monitored and communicated with the on-the-ground teams, you know, telling them these are young people. We have to, you know, be mindful of that as we bring back order. And you know, it's difficult being a parent now with so much weight and so many obligations they are facing. I know my role with Jordan and the responsibilities that I have. You know, our children cannot be raised by social media. Our children cannot get their values, their beliefs from social media and other outside entities. And it's about being aware that the things that my mother needed to raise me is different from the things that parents need today. Our children are being inundated by influencers, by those who consider themselves to be credible messengers. This young man yesterday, he had a substantial number of followers. People came from outside the city to be there. And I want us to, we're further looking into whether there's some even outside agitators. You don't come to get free Game Boys and bring smoke bombs and bring M80s and bring other disruptive items. And so we believe there were some outside influencers that may have attempted to aggravate this situation. And I cannot say enough for the police department yesterday. I don't think people realize the level of discipline that was showed to take a very dangerous, volatile situation and to be able to bring it to a level of resolve without any loss of life, any substantial damage to property, and without young people harming themselves. And, you know, that's the type of discipline it takes and the type of dedication that it took to bring this person to justice.
So we'll see what happens in terms of justice now that charges have been laid in relation to that. And we'll see what happens with social media and artificial intelligence. This incident is, I think, a warning, should serve as a warning for where things could go. This will only become an even more distorted and amplified problem, I think, in even just the months ahead, maybe not just the years, months, as artificial intelligence is used to manipulate people in a variety of different ways, not just politically. And it will also change the way that people interact. It will affect human relations because the artificial intelligence is going to be used also in ways that will detach more and more people from the real world. I'm already seeing, and I'm sure you probably have as well, artificial AI generated human companions. Interactive artificial companions that will make, it's going to transform the adult entertainment industry, adult video. It will make that interactive. It will make it maybe more appealing than reality to some because it will be easier and self-confirming. It won't be, real relationships are difficult or can be difficult. You need social skills. You have to learn about give and take and compromise and being complimentary and etiquette and manners. What's coming will be easy. a lot easier to have an artificial partner who just tells you all the things that it knows you want to hear. More to come.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So just to tag that story for you, Cenat has been charged with a variety of things, including at least 2 counts of inciting a riot, unlawful assembly, and a number of other charges. He has been released, by the way, from custody. And he will be back in court. Of that, you can be sure. Now, moving along, back into election mode here. I know that Lori works on the RFK Jr. campaign. That's not why I'm about to run what I'm about to run. This is a documentary. Short. It's just a short video. Powerful. It features a trip to the border that RFK Jr. just took. It talks about a variety of issues that I know are of deep concern to especially our audience. It deals with immigration. It deals with child exploitation, human trafficking. And I found it interesting to see that RFK Jr., in a way, by taking this trip to the border, is sort of taking ownership now of the wall, the issue that Trump used to propel himself to the presidency, one of the main issues. And that wall issue was prominent in this report. So I bring it to you tonight because this is a powerful video. It is, I think, a realistic look at a very real issue, dealing with it in a way that I think will help us all understand what is happening there on the border better. It will frame it politically for us. And I think it's worthwhile watching, not so much in the context of RFK Jr. as a presidential candidate, but just in terms of the news value that this brings in itself. I found this report to be, in this time of fakery, it felt raw. It felt very, very real to me when I watched it earlier today, and I want to share it with you now. Here we go.
I feel like the whole country needs to know what's going on here. It's bigger than alarming.
This is the worst I've ever seen it.
They were told they could get a bite at the American dream here. And that dream becomes a nightmare along the journey.
I'm down in Yuma, and I'm going to go look at the border. And most of the movement at the border is at this crossing is between 1 and 3 a.m. I came down here because I want to see firsthand what the problem is and get as many ideas as possible about the best way to solve this problem. Hey.
Good morning.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Welcome to Yuma. So you and Senator Kelly are the only Democrats that have actually come to the border, and I appreciate you being here.
I'm very happy to be here.
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful to you.
Thank you.
Should we go?
Let's go. I have to warn you that I've had some other high-profile visits, and that day that they came, nobody crossed.
Does that mean somebody on this side?
Yes.
With the Border Patrol is telling them?
I don't know if they're with the Border Patrol or where they're with some other agency.
Those people who are associated with the cartels.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And they've had more than 300 assassinations across the border, 25 miles from here, over the last year and a half, because they're fighting for control of the trafficking. Mr. Kennedy, if you want to look ahead, you'll kind of see where the wall begins. This is a new phenomenon for us where we've seen more people coming from Africa than ever before. China, Russia, even the Ukraine. We had a large surge coming from those countries. Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. Buenos días. ¿Qué tal? ¿De dónde vinieron? ¿Perú? ¿Cuánto tiempo tienen viajando? 7 días.
Nos salimos porque amenazaron a mi familia, a mi señora y a mis hijos, de matarlos. Ya habían matado a la mascota y
¿Cuánto les costó de llegar aquí?
mi idea no tengo sentido. Todo lo que tenía en mi casa, no pude dejar nada. Todo.
Vendieron todo.
Todo.
They're looking for asylum, right?
Yeah, they're looking for asylum, yeah. Where are you from?
Azerbaijan.
Azerbaijan, yes.
I'm at the border wall around Yuma, Arizona. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. We've watched about 150 people come across. I was expecting that most of the people would be from Central America. That this is really extraordinary.
Where are you from? Uzbekistan? Okay.
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. Bangladesh.
Perú.
Perú. Colombia.
Mis hijos están allá.
Ajá.
Ellos ya están en un proceso de asilo.
Oh.
Yo estoy sola en Colombia.
Gracias. Buena suerte.
Gracias.
Of all of these people, only one of them said that they were here for asylum. The rest of them are here for work, for better lives, doing the things that we all want for ourselves. This is at the regional health center. These are some of the people that we saw come across the border last night, and they're now being processed at the health center.
There's a lot of stories that we have heard from the migrants, why they're leaving.
What do they say?
Political asylum, mostly political asylum. And we want to respond in a humanitarian way. We're working, trying to make sure that they're not homeless and they're not end up in the streets.
Damas y caballeros, tengan cuidado, deben comprar sus boletos de avión para...
She is processing these immigrants, making sure that they're healthy enough to travel, and then putting them on buses where they go to every city in our country.
The stations are set up to welcome them, provide them some food, identify where they're going.
We did 2 weeks to travel from Senegal to Nicaragua. After Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, and here. I'm going to New York to join my uncle. My dream is to dream American, to live in America, to work and to help my family.
We coordinate with the airport in Phoenix, and out they go. to the final destination the same day.
Here, I hope to begin a new life. Yeah, my brother lives here. He's a citizen. Hey, good luck. Goodbye.
Most people bring the money or have a sponsor that buys their ticket.
What happens if family doesn't have the money to buy the plane ticket?
Well, FEMA reimburses us. We can buy the ticket and
So you buy the ticket for
yes.
Colombia.
¿De qué parte?
Bogotá.
Yo he estado mucho en los en todos los países. ¿Cómo se llaman? ¿Cómo? Su mano.
El niño también mío, Joseph.
Joseph, mucho gusto. ¿Y cómo estaba el viaje? El viaje muy difícil.
Más o menos.
Yo soy Jaime Maquera, de Perú. Nosotros hemos llegado 4 personas.
4 personas.
Yo, mi hija y mi señora. Mi otra hija que tiene 18 años. El momento de...
¿Y dónde están ellas?
Mi señora y mi hija están conmigo. Pero mi hija de 18 años, no sé dónde está.
Estaban contigo.
Pero en el momento de nosotros estar allá en el refugio, nos han separado y nos han invitado a todos.
¿Y cuánto separados?
No tengo comunicación con ella. ¿Es ella? Por favor, es ella.
We see a lot of violence as people are making across the border through Mexico or their countries. Some of them do share their stories, but we see that devastation in the human lives.
We are sitting here in Yuma, Arizona, right at the Colorado River at the Morales Dam. Behind us is Algodones, Mexico, and a stone's throw just behind us is the state of California.
So that mountain range behind us is California.
California, yes, sir. This is the infamous Morales Dam gap, and what you had is under President Trump, you had a big push for infrastructure, the wall system. And when President Biden took office, he signed some executive orders that basically halted all wall construction. And so that left the gap here. And this was a problem for us in Yuma. What no one talked about was the wall system. It was a package deal. Yes, it included steel, but it also included roads, technology, and sensor equipment. And all that was just put on hold. When you have people that can come through here unmitigated because there's a gap in the wall, it causes a problem for the not only for border security, but also for the community.
And that was partisan politics, right?
Absolutely. They halted anything that had to do with the Trump wall. It put our agents at risk. It put the migrants at risk. It incentivized the profit making for the smugglers, for the cartels. It's done just the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish from a humanitarian standpoint. When you are giving people, an opportunity to come here the wrong way because the policies allow them to do that, that's exploiting people, and that's wrong.
What you're seeing behind me here are millions and millions of dollars of materials, including these steel girders, that were purchased by the Trump administration to complete the construction of the wall. When the Biden administration came in, it didn't want to complete the wall, and they left that material to languish and bought new fencing, which you can see over here.
This is where Secretary Mayorkas told me he would fill in 9 of the 11 gaps. So 18 months later, we see maybe 50 feet completed. Now, the difference between this product and the other product, this has a 10-foot foundation going into the ground, so it's almost impossible to go under. The other new fencing being installed, the foundations are on the top of the ground. So you don't necessarily have that secondary protection under the ground, where we've seen them start to use horizontal drilling machines to burrow under and use the bank teller type of tubes to send fentanyl and other drugs across the border. We have had up to 2,000 people a day coming across in this area. Where that car is right there, there's actually a bridge that's been built out of 2x12s that crosses the Colorado River. and most of the people are dropped off right over there off of that freeway. They walk across in those large groups that we saw yesterday morning. A lot of the smugglers have directed them towards this area specifically. Now, if these cameras had been activated, they would have been able to observe this. But these cameras right behind us are not active. This is also an area which is infamous that they referred to as the rape tree. We would see Plan B, which is the day after, the morning after pill, found all throughout the ground where the cartel, after taking advantage and raping women and young children as young as 12, it's been reported to us, they would force them to take the Plan B and then send them along their way.
These kids are being exploited all along this track. There's nothing humane about any of this.
We work with child abuse, sexual assault, domestic violence, elder abuse, and human sex trafficking. Our unaccompanied minors here at the border are incredibly high, far higher than they should be. Imagine being a little kid and being stuck in the desert with no control over who does what to you, and there's nobody around. The youngest one in my recollection was a 10-year-old little boy. It's important to us to finally get people to understand that the dangers that await people as they make this journey, you don't know who you're going to come in contact with. They don't know who they're turning maybe their child over to. So we have 4 forensic interview rooms. These 2 that you're going to see here are child forensic interview rooms. I want you to walk in and see if you can find the camera and the microphone in here.
I think that's the microphone. It's pretty well disguised.
The whole point of that is that the child feels safe. The mics in these rooms are so sensitive that when a child lowers their head because they're feeling shame or they're upset or scared, even if they whisper, those mics are designed to pick up that very muted, quiet voice. In this room, obviously, we designed it to be as comfortable as we can possibly make it, because the reality is no child should ever have to come to this exam room for an exam.
We were averaging from 5 to 15 deaths on the range.
Per year?
Per year. Last year was our highest year ever, where we then were at 50 deaths on the range.
So this is the place where Marine pilots come to train and to practice in simulated war games?
Yes, sir. This installation would be referred to as the Top Gun for the Marine Corps.
How far is this base from the border right now?
Our training ranges are right next to the border.
And why would an immigrant come through the range when they can just walk around the wall in Yuma and register?
So the cartels were using some aliens, purposely making them cross the border into the desert area and saying walk north, and not letting them know that they were going to cross some very harsh environments, using them as pawns.
Drones would just kind of sweep the whole area. There's a big group of migrants coming through one area, and they were using the group that was moving in as a diversion for them, the smugglers, the guys doing the dirty work.
So they can push through 300 people. They know the U.S. Border Patrol is going to surge to take care of the people.
And then an hour later, they could be coming through with a large drug load, knowing that
somewhere else on the line.
Correct. Yeah. And they do the same thing with terrorists, and they do the same thing with gang members that they want into the country. They'll do those diversionary tactics to keep our border patrol occupied.
So you have individuals dressed in camouflage, wearing these booties, so they can actually traverse the desert to try to hide their shoe impressions so that they're not able to be tracked by Border Patrol. We don't know where they're going, and we don't know what kind of criminal that we're dealing with, because they do not want to be caught. So they will go through the desert. Here, it's going to be 2 to 3 days walking through the desert from the border of Mexico through all the remote desert to get to any kind of civilization. You got to be pretty dedicated, especially with the heat coming on. And unfortunately, not all make it.
And why do you think this happened?
At the end of the day, this is a business for people on the other side of the border. Billions and billions of dollars every month are earned from transporting people and, in conjunction, drugs across into the United States. And that kind of activity doesn't go away easily.
So if you were president of the United States, could you stop this immigration crisis?
Absolutely.
And how would you do it?
If I was president for the day, I would finish the wall where it makes sense. I don't need 2,000 miles of wall from San Diego to Brownsville, Texas. Mother Nature has done really good in areas of West Texas where you don't need a wall. We need technology to help the agents respond. I've talked about tall fences and wide gates. Tall fences, in my opinion, is a metaphor for keeping this border secure, and the wide gates is continuing this nation of immigrants, as well as a legal pathway for those that seek to enter the United States. That to me is very important.
This has been an extraordinary trip for me because on the one hand, last night, I witnessed this dystopian nightmare of this uncontrolled flow of desperate humanity crossing the border and converging here because of misbegotten policies by high leadership of the United States, and landing in this community that has the other side of America, the best that we can represent to ourselves, to the rest of the globe. But after visiting the border, I've come to understand that the open border policy is just a way of funding a multi-billion-dollar drug and human trafficking operation for the Mexican drug cartels. When I'm president, I will secure the border, which will end the cartel's drug and trafficking economy. And I will build wide doors for those who wish to enter legally, so that the United States can continue to be a beacon to the world where diversity and culture make us great.
I'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.